Behind bars for the murder of a Missouri mother for 34 years, and every single one of those he has fought to prove his innocence.
Well, now new evidence we revealed tonight may give Rodney Lincoln new hope, but a hearing in Kansas City next month could be his last shot.
In a 41 Action News exclusive, Dia Wall sat down with Lincoln in prison.
Joanne Tate was stabbed to death in her St. Louis apartment in 1982. Her two young daughters violently attacked. A sketch, a lineup, a month later, an arrest. At trial, prosecutors insisted Rodney Lincoln's hair was at the home. Tate's 7-year-old daughter, Melissa, also testified.
To sit there and have that little girl walk up in front of me and point her finger at me, I can't describe the pain.
I remember them telling us that he had to go downtown and he'd be back in a little bit. And here it is 34 and a half years later and he hasn't come back yet.
When they said guilty, I was stunned.
What was the feeling?
Complete helplessness.
A life sentence without parole.
The first 10 years had a little hope. You know, maybe something would come up. The next 10 years, hopelessness. I gave up. I felt that there was no way that I could ever get out. Then my daughter got busy, and hope started rising again.
Almost 30 years later, the state tests the DNA in Lincoln's case.
The hair is not his.
Experts test a dozen or so other items taken from the apartment that night, too.
No DNA from Rodney Lincoln.
Kay called her dad when the DNA results came in.
What'd she say?
If I remember exactly, she said, "Dad, you're coming home. It's not yours."
Those hopes crushed when a judge ruled it wasn't enough to prove his innocence because of the victim's testimony. That little girl said Lincoln was the attacker then. This is her story now.
He wasn't in my house that night. He was not there. He was never there. And I would be willing to take a lie detector, whatever you want. But he was not in the house. He did not kill my mom.
A bombshell revelation almost 35 years after the crime.
Melissa's adamant. I'm not the one that done it.
For 33 years, she was adamant you did it, though.
Yes, she was.
Since November, fighting for Lincoln's exoneration alongside his defense. They argue her original suspect identification was staged.
They bring her just 2 photos, and they say, "I need you to look through the door. If you don't choose the right person, the bad man's going to go free." And they show her 2 photos, one of Mr. Lincoln and one of a relative.
Here's the lineup photo taken 2 hours later. Lincoln is the only man with short hair like the composite sketch.
They manipulated and coached and guided the witness when she was an 8-year-old traumatized child.
These weren't just good people doing a good job. They set out to convict an innocent man, and they knew what they were doing.
Prosecutors say Melissa's recantation isn't credible, and the lack of Lincoln's DNA proves nothing. Yet there's this.
He had an alibi, and an alibi that checked out.
2 people verified that I was at home at that time.
Prosecutors aren't looking at anyone else in this case, but now, for the first time, a panel of 3 federal judges will review the evidence and decide what's next for Rodney Lincoln.
There are more people who can see what we see. There are more people who can see the injustice that happened.
This panel may be your last shot.
It could be. Could very well be. It only takes one, and this will be the one.
You're confident?
Absolutely.
Even after 34 years?
Truth has to win sometime.
Lincoln betting his future and his freedom on one request.
Look at the evidence. And if they do that, I'm going home.
Dia Wall, 41 Action News.
Lincoln will present his defense here in Kansas City next month, and that panel has the power to exonerate him from his sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole.